Project Bill here, and before we start, this video will contain a lot of, well, cursing, adult jokes to a degree, and blood, gore, and a few other things. So watch this on your own. Reason I am not at any fault for you being traumatized because it's your choice if you want to watch this. But the trauma won't be a problem, and as always, I will refer to female Deku as Izumi Midoriya. But enough talking, and let's begin. What if sadist female Deku had a perfect creation quirk? And we start this story in Japan, Mustafa City at night, and in a park as we now get to a 15-year-old Izumi Midoriya in handcuffs. "Young lady, we are arresting you for the accusation of illegal use of a quirk," the officer said as Izumi's expression was the same, very bored. "Accusations, accusations. I did not do any of these. There is no proof. I want my lawyer. I will sue. I can't even use my quirk," Izumi said in a whiny tone. And while the officers knew something shady was going on, they had no proof, as they unwantingly took off Izumi's handcuffs, and Izumi smirked at another victory of dunking on these stupid police officers with her smarts as she was about to walk away scot-free again. But before she could leave, one of the officers told her stop, and Izumi, with a sigh, did so, tapping her foot on the ground. "Okay, kid, can you at least come with us? We want to ask you a few questions," the same officer said. And after Izumi heard that, "Well, ask my parents, because I am not going anywhere," Izumi said as she ran off before she has to take any more questions, as the officers did not stop her because they had zero evidence, and dealing with a kid is not really the best idea. But back to Izumi, who was now in alleyway smiling. "Ha! Dumb motherfuckers, I killed my parents. Or I guess my dad only, but whatever," Izumi said to herself, smiling, as she started walking around Mustafa for some more gold trading, which is basically using her creation quirk to create gold and sell it for money. And so Izumi kept doing that for the next few months, making money, sometimes murdering her clients in cold blood for fun, and basically living the life of freedom as a criminal. After she kills Hisashi, her dad, for all the abuse she had endured until she was 11 years old, and after that using her quirk to do this work. And really, it's actually pretty good for a psychopath like her, even if she talks to herself a lot and maybe is crazy as well. But really, does it matter? Izumi wondered to herself, as right now 6 months had already passed in a blink of eye, as she really needed to think of her future life because, yeah, she loves doing this, but it's getting very hard because now she might be more suspected, which can be problematic, and a random girl in the street can be suspicious even though it's men who are more suspicious, but the thought of being sent to prison still remained. And while the idea of getting a job and re-entering society sounds good to most criminals, but to Izumi that's like, well, in a sense of a word, boring to say the least, because who wants to average except maybe people who are average? But Izumi knows her thoughts still remained, but literally 0 people were here to hear it. But there was one thing she could do, and while she liked that thing when she was a kid, now she knows it's just fancying around, writing autographs and beating villains. And that thing is being a hero. Or she could start a modeling gig with her beautiful appearance, but her age is a problem, so that won't work out, and nor can we wait for 4 more years of absolute bullshit, so being a hero it is. And which hero school to choose? Well, obviously it can be any one hero school, like literally any, but dunking on people's dreams is a hobby her, so UA High is the best pick because she destroyed the dreams of a lot of people in her age with no bad side effects, or simply put, as no drama on her name. But to even enter, she needs money and needs to get a good score on the entrance exam. And while physically and quirk-wise she is more than above average, especially quirk-wise, Izumi knows she needs some money for the UA entrance exam in 4 months, so back to trading gold it is. And maybe a little training as well, Izumi thought to herself, as for the next 4 months, Izumi traded gold, trained in martial arts and some other stuff, and not at all training in her quirk because she literally has 0 problems in using it. Like no stamina drain, imagination is the only limit, like it's perfect. Yeah, her perfect creation. And this is where now we jump cut to 4 months later and to Izumi in front of the UA entrance exam, and she is no longer wearing that boring black hoodie and black pants, but instead she is wearing a white long-sleeved collared shirt with a small red bow tie, a dark green buttoned vest, and a matching dark green pleated skirt, or the clothes that is shown on the thumbnail. But back to the story, and Izumi was in front of the entrance exam. As she looked around, seeing all the people whose dreams she can crush in one instant, and Izumi smiled, already having a plan in her head, as she got in the entrance exam and quickly did an entire circle around the exam for her devious plan, and looking at every person she can, and seeing a familiar face, and it is Katsuki Bakugo, one of the people she bullied before she ran away from home, but today is not the day to talk about the past, Izumi had thought to herself, as she completed the circle and then took a seat in the front as the written exam started. Which was easy because of the fact that while yes, she knows she can create anything, being smart is needed because she wants to be extra careful just in case something goes wrong. So she made sure to learn as much as she could in her free time, and now it helped in this test, and she answered all the questions as after the written test ended. As Present Mike started explaining about how the robot examination works, like about the 1, 2, and 3-pointer robots, until he got interrupted, Ida said, standing up his body straight and rigid as he continued on, "I want to mention that you have forgotten about the 0-pointer in this, which is a very bad rep for UA High's examination," Ida said, and Present Mike hearing that, "Well, kid, I was getting to that part, so sit down already." Present Mike and Ida sat back down as Present Mike explained about the 0-pointer robot and told everyone to just ignore it. And after Present Mike's explanation was done, everyone waited, as Izumi smiled because her little plan was going to be in action. Izumi thought to herself as everyone waited until, "All of you, go now. Heroes don't wait for any readies." Present Mike said loudly, as everyone were about to rush in their own sectors, but fell on the ground as they all looked only to see their legs with a chain ball tied with it, as some of the students tried to destroy it or anything but failed, because it was unbreakable, as everyone was confused and some screamed, some were annoyed, some were angry, as Present Mike was about to go down only to fall as well, to see that he also had a chain ball on his leg. And Izumi, in all of this, tiptoed to her sector, which is Sector B, as she went in there and her first target was a group of 4 3-pointer robots, as she, using her creation quirk, used explosions to destroy the robots, inspired by Bakugo's explosion quirk, which she saw Bakugo use when they were kids, and it was easy to replicate. And so Izumi continued her onslaught on the robots, like going from 3-pointer to 1 to 2, and basically destroying as many as she can, as we now get to the VIP room where a few heroes, a few proctors, and Nezu are, as all of them were very much as they started talking. The VIP room was filled with a mixture of confusion and genuine shock as the pro heroes stared at the monitors. On the screens, hundreds of potential students were face-planting or struggling against the heavy black chain balls that had appeared out of nowhere, effectively halting the exam for everyone except for one girl. Nezu, the principal, sipped his tea while his bead-like eyes twinkled with a dangerous level of interest. My, it seems we have a bit of a predicament on our hands, don't we? It's not every year the entire examinee pool is neutralized before the gates even open. Predicament? It's a damn disaster, Vlad King yelled, slamming his fist onto the console. Look at Sector B. That girl, Izumi Midoriya. She's the only one moving. Did she do this? This has to be a foul. She's sabotaging the entire future of the hero industry. Midnight leaned in closer to the monitor, a devious smirk playing on her lips as she watched Izumi blow through a group of 3-pointers with ease. Oh, calm down, Vlad. It's not sabotage, it's efficiency. Look at the material of those chains. Our sensors are reading them as a high-density titanium alloy. She didn't just stop them, she made sure they stayed stopped. It's cruel, calculated. I love it. It's against the spirit of the exam, Eraserhead muttered. His eyes narrowed as he watched Izumi replicate a massive explosion that sent robot parts flying everywhere. She's not just scoring points, she's ensuring no one else can. It's narcissistic. And that quirk, she's using explosions now? Her file says creation, Ida said. Maybe she used her creation quirk to create a type of explosion-related substance, Snipe added, adjusting his hat. Look at her face. She isn't saving anyone. She looks like she's at a damn theme park while everyone else is crying in the dirt. If she becomes a hero, she's going to be a nightmare for the PR department.
Nezu chuckled, a sound that made the other heroes go silent. A monster, perhaps, but she is a monster with a perfect score. Look at the board. She's already surpassed the record for villain points, and there are still 5 minutes left. She has completely outplayed our system. She recognized that the best way to win a race isn't just to run fast, but to break everyone else's legs. We have to do something, Vlad King insisted. We can't let her just stroll through. The other kids deserve a chance. I agree, Nezu said, his paw hovering over a large red button. Let's see how our little prodigy handles a situation where she can't just create her way out of the consequences. If she wants to be a hero, she needs to show us more than just a mean streak. Nezu pressed the button, and the floor of the observation room vibrated. Release the 0-pointer, Nezu commanded, his smile widening. Let's see if she's still laughing when the big boy comes out to play.
And this is where we now get back to Izumi as she saw the 0-pointer coming out, so she thought for a second, and another devious plan came to her mind as she counted down from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. As all the chain dolls melted away into the ground as all the contestants were now free, but now had to deal with a huge problem, which was the 0-pointer, and one was in each sector, which made it harder for everyone to get robot eliminations. And Izumi smiled at this as she kept destroying more robots, and mostly 3-pointers, and just in case if someone gets higher than her 150 points. But right now, there was only 4 minutes remaining, and Izumi used this to destroy more robots, and the contestants in her sector were absolutely fucked because of the 0-pointer, which no one could handle right now. And Izumi knew it, and she kept destroying more robots while smiling at the contestants running away from 0-pointer, until Izumi heard a scream, which was music to her ears. So she quickly looked to where she heard it from, and Izumi saw a girl trapped under rubble, who we know as Ochako. And Ochako was trapped under in rubble as she was about to crushed by the 0-pointer, and Izumi, wanting to feel a little cool, decided to save Ochako as she created a titanium dome around Ochako as the 0-pointer's leg landed on it, doing absolutely no damage, as Izumi smirked as his right hand went in flames as she shot a huge fire attack at the 0-pointer's middle area, or stability core to be exact, and it was a perfect shot as the 0-pointer was now in 2 pieces as it fell on the ground. And Izumi smirked and disintegrated the titanium dome because anything she creates she can delete as long as it is in a 5-minute window. But she did not really care to think about that as she went to Ochako. And now Izumi was in front of Ochako as she kicked the rubble away. "Hey, you all right or not, Pinky?" Izumi said as Ochako was shocked. "Yeah, I am fine, thank you," Ochako said, and Izumi nodded as she started to walk away, ignoring the awe stares of the other contestants because she destroyed the 0-pointer, which everyone was told to ignore. But Izumi did not really care as the robot elimination test ended, and Izumi quickly got out of there. As we now get in the VIP room, the silence was thick enough to cut with a knife as the smoke cleared from the monitor. The pro heroes sat paralyzed, staring at the feed of Sector B, where the massive 0-pointer lay in 2 sparking, melted heaps. "Did she just one-shot the 0-pointer?" Vlad King whispered, his voice cracking. "And she didn't even use a weapon. She just mimicked Endeavor's signature fire output like it was a Sunday stroll." Aizawa rubbed his temples, feeling a massive migraine brewing. "It's not just the power. Look at the timing. She released those chain balls exactly when the 0-pointer appeared. She didn't do it out of the goodness of her heart. She did it to maximize the chaos. She trapped them until they were most vulnerable, then saved one girl to look like a hero while making everyone else look like pathetic cowards. Her efficiency is terrifying," Midnight added, her usual playful tone replaced by genuine unease. "She created high-density titanium to protect that girl, then immediately deleted it. That means she has total control of the molecular structure of her creations from start to finish. But did you see her eyes when she kicked that rubble away? There was no concern, no 'are you hurt?' It was like she was looking at a bug she decided not to squash." Nezu narrowed his eyes, his claws tapping rhythmically across his teacup. She has 150 villain points, a new school record, and she just secured 60 rescue points by taking down the obstacle we told everyone to ignore. Mathematically, she is the perfect candidate. Psychologically, she is a volatile enigma. She's a ticking time bomb, Nezu, Snipe barked, checking his revolvers as if she expected Izumi to walk through the door right then. That girl doesn't have the heart of a hero, she has the heart of a conqueror. You saw how she looked at the other kids, like they were just background noise in her own personal movie. And that's exactly why we have to keep her close, Nezu countered, a sharp, toothy grin appearing on his face. If a girl with that much power and that little empathy stays on the streets, she becomes a villain we can't stop. But here, under our roof, we can observe her, we can mold her, or at the very least, we can keep the world safe from her for 3 years. You're gambling with the safety of the other students, Aizawa muttered, staring at the image of Izumi walking away from the scene without a single backward glance. A girl like that doesn't re-enter society, she dominates it. If we let her into Class 1A, the drama she claims to hate is the only thing we deal with. Then it's settled, Nezu declared, ignoring the protests. Izumi Midoriya passes with the highest score in UA history. God help us all. Should I have a talk with her, Nezu, to check her intentions? Aizawa said, and Nezu allowed it, and Aizawa got to the door, opening it to see Izumi Midoriya smiling right there, as he was confused, and so was the other heroes. Can I talk to the principal of UA High, please? And alone, also? Since won't I be a student in UA High from my great performance in the exam? Izumi said, trying to be nice, even though she just caused the most problem 2 minutes ago. The tension in the room was palpable, a heavy blanket of silence falling over the pro-heroes as they stared at the green-haired girl standing in the doorway. She looked perfectly composed, not a single hair out of place despite having just leveled a giant robot. Her smile was sweet, too sweet, the kind that didn't quite reach her eyes, which remained cold and calculating. Aizawa blocked her path, his scarf starting to drift upward. You shouldn't even know where this room is off limits to examinees, Midori. Oh, I just followed the smell of expensive tea and desperation, Izumi chirped, tilting her head. She peered past Aizawa's shoulder, locking her gaze onto Nezu. So, Principal, do I get my private audience, or are we going to keep playing this game where you pretend to be in charge, while I decide whether or not I actually feel like attending your school? Nezu's eyes flashed, but he didn't lose his composure. Step aside, Shota. I believe the top scorer deserves a few moments of my time. The rest of you, please clear the room. The heroes hesitated, Vlad King looking like he was ready to arrest her on the spot, but one look from Nezu sent them filing out. Aizawa was the last to leave, burning a hole in Izumi with his glare before the heavy steel doors hissed shut.
Izumi didn't wait to be invited. She strolled over to the mahogany desk and pulled up a chair, sitting with her legs crossed. Okay, I am not here to insult you like you might think, blah blah blah, I need something from you, or more like a request, as I guess future UA High student, Izumi said, smiling, trying to act nice. Nezu took a sip of his tea, slow and deliberate. I have seen your incredible performance in the entrance exam with the other proctors who were here, and your way of doing things was interesting. But I won't do small talk, so tell me, Izumi-kun, what your request is, Nezu said with his signature laugh. Well, to put it bluntly, I am homeless, and not homeless like money, but homeless of no home, like I have the money but can't rent anything, and blah blah blah. I want you to let me stay in UA High, and any room is fine, and if you want money, I can do that, I guess, Izumi said in a bored tone. Nezu placed his teacup down with a soft clink, the sound echoing in the now empty VIP room. He studied the girl sitting across from him. Most students, even seasoned pro heroes, found his gaze unnerving, yet Izumi sat there with the casual indifference of someone ordering fast food. Homeless, a girl with your resourcefulness, that is a fascinating contradiction, Nezu said, his voice brimming with polite curiosity. With the intellect you demonstrated today, I imagine you could have created a solution to a housing crisis quite easily, yet you've come to me. He hopped down from his chair and paced across the desk, his paws clasped behind his back. UA does not typically offer dormitories for first-year students, at least not yet. We prefer our students to have a stable home life to balance the rigors of hero training. However, he paused, his bead-like eyes locking onto hers, you are hardly a typical student. You are a security risk, a tactical genius, and, by your own admission, a vagabond. If I leave you to the streets, you are a variable I cannot control. If I keep you here, you are an asset I can observe. Nezu turned back to her, a sharp, knowing smile stretching across his face. I will grant your request. You will be provided with a living space within the staff residential wing under the pretense of a special scholarship program. No rent will be required. Consider it an investment in UA's future safety. But, Izumi-kun, let us be very clear about the price of this arrangement. He leaned in closer, his tone dropping to a whisper that carried a hidden edge. In exchange for this roof over your head, you will submit to a weekly psychological evaluation with me personally. I find your drama-free philosophy quite entertaining, but I want to ensure that your boredom doesn't lead you to dismantling my school from the inside out. Do we have an accord? Izumi smiled widened just a fraction. A private chat with the smartest creature on Earth once a week sounds like the best drama I've had in years. Deal. Wonderful. Nezu clapped his paws together, reverting to his cheery persona. I'll have Aizawa-kun show you to your new quarters, though do try not to startle him. He's already had quite a stressful afternoon thanks to your titanium ball and chain display. Nezu stated, and right on cue, Aizawa opened the door as Nezu explained to Aizawa what he needed, and after Nezu was done explaining, Aizawa looked at Izumi with a sigh on his which somehow made him look tired. But a job is a job, and so Aizawa took Izumi to her new room in UA High, which had the basics like a bed, desk, and a few other things, as Aizawa told Izumi she can decorate it however she wants as long it is not an explosive, and Izumi, hearing that, nodded while rolling her eyes as Aizawa left, and Izumi got in her room and quickly took off the bed bedding and used her creation quirk to make a much more softer, pillowier bedding because she can, and the old one can be a punching is all she cares about. But now she has to wait 3 weeks for the, UA High's contestants to be judged and shit, but what can she do now? Izumi wondered to herself with an exasperated expression. And while there were many things she could do, like help UA High with tech and, natural minerals and shit, they have to ask first for that, but she can also find out what the teachers at UA High do, but spying on adults is not really her thing, but she can also check who the more or less other students are, or the students who will be in the first year, and so Izumi did that for the first week she was in UA High, but there were barely any interesting students, and while some were interesting, like Shoto Todoroki, the son of the number 2 hero Endeavor, that's really just it. And right now, the first week had ended, but so did Izumi learning anything else about her classmates. So else can she learn about? Suddenly, Izumi's head had a brilliant yet simple idea, and it's just so obvious yet so stupid, and that is spying on the best students right now who are either on 2nd or 3rd year in UA High. And while she knows she can easily spy on them with no one noticing, she might as well ask Nezu if he will let her talk to them, because why not? Because Nezu would probably allow it because it would help him learn more about her quirk, which she really does not care about. And so Izumi did that, and not surprising to Izumi, Nezu allowed it for the reason that Izumi just thought about. And so after that, Izumi started checking out the 2nd year, and none of them were interesting, so she went to the 3rd years, and yeah, while some were obviously better than the 2nd years to her, they were weaker, but there were 3 people in there, and they are called the Big 3, which is basically the 3 strongest of maybe UA High or in their own, yeah, but she doesn't really care, but they are Nijire Hado, Nijire-chan, Tamaki Amajiki, Sun Eater, and lastly the strongest, Mirio Tagata, Lemillion. And Izumi uncaringly decided to talk to them, and not while they are in class, obviously, because she might be crazy but not an idiot. And so Izumi patiently waited until lunchtime started as she walked in the lunchroom and walked to their lunch table as obviously they were confused. You 3 are called the Big 3 of UA High, am I right? Izumi said, looking down at them. Mirio, hearing that, smiled. Yes, we are. And who are you? Izumi Midori. I know your name, so let's not waste time with introductions, Izumi said and sat on the chair, clearly ignoring the thing she just said a second ago. As the atmosphere at the table shifted instantly, usually people approached the big three with stars in their eyes or nervous stammers, but Izumi's bored conqueror energy was something new entirely. Tamaki Amajiki was the first to react, though not with words. He flinched visibly, his shoulders hunching up towards his ears as he stared intently at his tray of takoyaki. To him, Izumi's presence felt like a physical weight, cold and sharp. He looked like he wanted to phase through the floor and disappear. And Nijire Hado, there on the other hand, leaned forward so fast, her long periwinkle hair nearly dipped into Mirio's lunch. Her eyes were wide with that signature, borderline intrusive curiosity. Wait, Nijire chirped, her finger inches from Izumi's cheek. I heard about you. You're the scary first year from the news, the one who chained everyone up. Is it a metal quirk or a space quirk? Why is your hair that shade of green? Is it natural? Mirio Togata, ever the rock of the group, maintained his cheerful smile, though his eyes sharpened slightly. He was gauging her. As the person closest to being the #1 hero, he could sense the sheer unbridled power rolling off this girl, but more importantly, he sensed the lack of something. There was no heroic spirit radiating from her, just a cold, vacuum-like ambition. Whoa, Nijire, give her some space. You're going to make her head spin. Mirio laughed, though the sound was more grounded than usual. He put a hand on Nijire's shoulder to pull her back an inch before looking directly at Izumi. You've got a lot of confidence, Midori-kun. I like that, Mirio said, his voice booming but friendly. But you're right, let's skip the small talk. You didn't come over here just to confirm our titles. Usually when a talented underclassman seeks us out, they want advice, a spar, or a challenge. He leaned in, his smile turning a bit more knowing. So, Izumi Midori-kun, which one are you? Or are you just here to see if the big three are actually worth the hype? I am here to challenge the strongest, and not for the pride and glory, but because I am interested in how great UA High is by making strong characters like you with their hard test, Izumi said with a not-so-dangerous smile. As the lunchroom went eerily quiet, it wasn't just the words Izumi spoke, but the way she said them, the air of a bored predator playing with its food. Mirio's smile didn't falter, but it stiffened. He was used to eager challengers, but Izumi wasn't looking for a lesson, she was looking for a flaw in the system. Tamaki, sensing the sheer malice behind her not-so-dangerous smile, let out a small strangled noise and leaned his forehead to the table, trying to become invisible. And Nijire bounced in her seat, her eyes sparkling with a mix of excitement and genuine bewilderment. Wait, Nijire chirped, her finger inches from Izumi's cheek. I heard about you. You're the scary first year from the news, the one who chained everyone up. Is it a metal quirk or a space quirk? Why is your hair that shade of green? Is it natural? Mirio Togata, ever the rock of the group, maintained his cheerful smile, though his eyes sharpened slightly. He was gauging her. As the person closest to being the #1 hero, he could sense the sheer unbridled power rolling off this girl, but more importantly, he sensed the lack of something. There was no heroic spirit radiating from her, just a cold, vacuum-like ambition. Whoa, Nijire, give her some space. You're going to make her head spin. Mirio laughed, though the sound was more grounded than usual. He put a hand on Nijire's shoulder to pull her back an inch before looking directly at Izumi. You've got a lot of confidence, Midori-kun. I like that, Mirio said, his voice booming but friendly. But you're right, let's...
And we now jump cut to 2 weeks later, as in these 2 weeks Izumi did the weekly talk with Nezu like she promised to do, and in this first one Nezu asked for her capabilities, and Izumi explained it the best she could. And to put it imply, she can create as much as she can, and for complex things or making new things like a tea to coffee converter or vice versa, will take a little time and a good amount of knowledge. And that was in the first week of 2 weeks, and in the second week Nezu asked Izumi about herself, or more specifically how she feels when doing certain things, and Nezu learned 4 things from their conversation, and one being that Izumi might be a sadist, second, her sadism does not go full forward in violence, and lastly, third, Izumi is not fully crazy and a little simple in thought, even though how she plans and does things look like they are mastermind level. And that's enough info for Nezu to guess Izumi won't be that big of a problem in UA High. And the fourth thing is that Izumi chooses the good side, because yes, she can be evil, but being evil and having power will get rid of the fun to annoy people or break their dreams, or in her words, dunking on their hopes and dreams. But fully stopping them ruins the fun, which yes, sounds tarrying, but Izumi could have been worse. But it's a good thing she is not, and the fact that he knows about those, or else the Hero Public Safety Commission would lock Izumi up for life for the way she acts, even though she has not even broken a law yet, Nezu thought to himself as he dismissed Izumi. And in these 2 weeks, Izumi had met All Might, but did not talk to him because he would be talking too much about Justive, heroes, and a lot of other things, and this is where we now jump cut to the next day as Izumi got ready in her UA High clothes for her first day in a class in UA, and after getting ready she got out of her room and went to class 1A, already seeing Aizawa in his yellow sleeping bag on the floor, as she ignored that and took a window seat in the front. And she waited as students started coming in, and most of them were boring like she interpreted, until Katsuki Bakugo came in as he looked at Izumi shocked as memories of their bad history came flooding to him, actually trying to help the other students in their class before age 10, being bullied by Izumi, and basically in Bakugo's eyes, she the devil for the things she did when they were young. All the bullying of him and the other kids in their school, enough for it be annoying but not hurting in any way physically or mentally, and always being backed up by the teachers and so much more, as Bakugo did not care about how she was here, but why was she allowed to be here, as Bakugo looked at Izumi. "What's that face for, Kachin?" Izumi said, smiling slightly. Bakugo's hands ignited, the sharp pop-pop-pop of miniature explosions echoing through the silent classroom. The few students who had already settled in, a tall boy with engines in his legs and a girl with gravity-defying hair, stiffened at the sudden display of aggression. "You don't you Kachin me, you damn monster!" Bakugo snarled, his voice a low, vibrating growl of pure instinctual loathing. He didn't move forward, though. His body remembered what his pride tried to forget. Every time he'd tried to blast that look off her face in middle school, he'd end up tangled in his own shoelaces or trapped in a cage of reinforced steel before he could even blink. Izumi didn't even turn her head fully away from the window. She just rested her chin on her palm, her green eyes tracking a bird outside with more interest than the boy currently smoking at the front of the class. "You're still so loud," Izumi remarked, her tone as dry as parchment. "Is that your only character trait, or did you finally learn a second emotion over the summer?" "I'll kill you!" Bakugo took a step forward, the smell of nitroglycerin filling the air. "Both of you, sit down." The voice came from the floor. Aizawa, still encased in his yellow sleeping bag like a giant disgruntled caterpillar, shuffled toward the podium. His red-rimmed eyes flickered toward Izumi for a fraction of a second, a look that conveyed both a warning and a weary acknowledgement of the headache she represented, before settling on Bakugo. "If you're here to play at being a delinquent, leave. This is the hero course." Bakugo clicked his tongue, his face contorted in a mask of rage, but he stomped over to his seat, kicking the chair as he sat down. He kept his eyes burned into the back of Izumi's head, but she remained perfectly still, a silent void in the middle of the chaotic energy of Class 1A. "I'm Shota Aizawa, your homeroom teacher. I know it's the first day, but we don't have time to waste on ceremonies. Put these on and meet me on the training grounds. We're having a quirk apprehension test." The class gathered on the dirt field, the atmosphere thick with nervous excitement, except for Izumi, who stood slightly apart from the group, her hands tucked into her gym pockets. "A quirk test on the first day?" Ochaka Uraraka gasped. "But what about the entrance ceremony, the orientation?" "If you want to be heroes, you don't have time for fluff," Aizawa said, his eyes landing on Izumi. "Midoriya, you finished first in the exam. What was your softball throw record in junior high?" "I skipped junior high, so I don't know," Izumi said. "Try it with your quirk either way. Anything goes as long as you stay in the circle." Aizawa sighed as he tossed her the ball. Izumi stepped into the ring. The rest of the class leaned in, especially Bakugo, who was vibrating with the need to see her fail. Izumi didn't wind up her arm. She didn't even look at the horizon. She simply held the ball in her palm and closed her eyes for a split second. Clang! In a flash of green-tinted light, a sleek, pressurized pneumatic cannon manifested around her arm, constructed of a shimmering, unknown alloy. It looked like something out of a sci-fi film, perfectly molded to her grip. With a sound like a localized thunderclap, the ball wasn't thrown, it was launched. It broke the sound barrier instantly, a white streak vanishing into the clouds. Aizawa held up his phone, showing the digital display. Infinity. "No way," Kaminari whispered, his jaw dropping. She didn't even move." Izumi let the cannon dematerialize into fine dust, her expression never changing. She walked past the stunned crowd, stopping just inches from Bakugo. "Your turn, Kachin," Izumi whispered, her voice a soft, poisonous silk. "Try not to let the perfect girl's shadow get in your eyes. It might ruin your aim," Izumi said as she got out of the circle. Bakugo's face transitioned from a frantic red to a deathly, trembling pale. He didn't yell, he didn't explode. He simply snatched the ball from Aizawa's hand, his knuckles white. He stepped into the circle, his mind screaming with the memory of every time Izumi had effortlessly dismantled his ego. "Die!" he roared, funneling every ounce of his inferiority complex into a massive explosion. The ball soared, trailing smoke and heat, finally landing at a respectable 705.2 meters. He turned, expecting to see a flicker of annoyance on Izumi's face. Instead, she was looking at her fingernails, appearing genuinely bored. 700? She mused, loud enough for only him to hear. "I suppose that's a passing grade for a supporting character. Good job, Kachin." "You damn—" Bakugo's sparks fizzled out as Aizawa's scarf snapped tight around him. "Enough," Aizawa grumbled, his eyes glowing red. "Now that Midoriya has set the bar, let's get serious. I'm judging your potential. The student who ranks last on the total score sheet at the end of these 8 tests will be judged as having 0 potential and will be expelled immediately." The air in the field turned icy. Ochaka let out a small shriek, and even the confident Ida looked shaken. Izumi, however, simply adjusted her collar. "Expulsion?" she whispered with a ghost of a smile. "Now the atmosphere is actually worth breathing." The rest of the tests were less of a competition and more of a clinical demonstration. While the other students struggled, panted, and prayed they weren't the one going home, Izumi moved with a detached precision that made the rest of Class 1A look like they were playing in a sandbox. 50-meter dash? Izumi didn't run. She created a pair of localized gravitational anchors on her boots that snapped her to the finish line in 0.02 seconds, leaving Tenya Ida staring at his own engines in silent crisis. Grip strength. The machine didn't just register a number, it crumpled into a ball of scrap metal as she reinforced her hand with a diamond density glove. "I think your toy is broken, Sensei," she said flatly. Standing long jump, she simply walked across the air on a bridge of invisible solidified nitrogen plates, stepping off at the other side without a speck of dust on her shoes. By the time the final results were posted on the holographic board, Izumi Midoriya's name sat at the very top, separated from the rest by a significant margin. Bakugo was second, though his expression suggested he felt like he was in last. At the bottom of the list stood a trembling Minoru Mineta, who looked ready to faint. "By the way," Aizawa said, deactivating the hologram as Mineta began to sob, "the expulsion thing was a rational deception to draw out your best performance. No one is going home." As the class sighed with collective hysterical relief, Izumi tilted her head, her gaze lingering on Aizawa. "A lie? How disappointing," she whispered, her voice carrying that unsettling clinical edge. "I was actually looking forward to seeing someone's dreams die on the first day. It would have been a much more heroic lesson, don't you think?" Aizawa didn't answer. He just turned away, his heart sinking. He had realized what Nezu already knew. Class 1A wasn't just hosting a prodigy, they were hosting a judge.
And this is where we now jump cut to the next day, as to the 5th day of UA High in Class 1A. As All Might didn't just enter the room, he announced his presence with the sheer force of his own brand. The door slid open with a bang, and the #1 hero leaned into the frame, his signature grin gleaming like a polished spotlight. "I am coming through the door like a normal person," he boomed, though his posture was anything normal. His massive cape billowed behind him, and his laughter seemed to vibrate the very glass in the windows. The classroom erupted